At the center of the independent city-state of Opobo, located in the present-day River State within the nation of Nigeria, there stands an imposing statue of its legendary founder, King Jaja, with an inscription that reads as follows: "A king in title and deed, always just and generous." Jaja of Opobo was indeed a great king, one who, unlike most monarchs who had their royal inheritance passed down to them by their forefathers, Jaja was a self-made merchant king who worked his back out of slavery and into royalty through the business of trading palm oil across the Niger Delta, a trade that made him extremely wealthy, such that historians considered him to be the first Nigerian international trader and millionaire of the 19th century. Now, the real question to ask is, how did a slave boy, one who against all odds, the odds of poverty, slavery, and colonial rule, rise to become a formidable merchant king of the Niger Delta? But before we get to the bottom of Jaja's success and how he rose from grass to grace, let us first examine his backstory. This is the legacy of the famous slave boy who became king by establishing a palm oil empire, His Imperial Majesty the King, Jaja of Opobo. Jaja was possibly born in 1821 in a small village in Orlu, located in the town of Amaibo within the Imo state of the present-day nation of Nigeria. His birth name was Mbananso Ozorumba, though the identity of his biological parents is unknown due to the lack of birth records in that pre-colonial era. During the 1800s, Igbo land was invaded by Europeans for the acquisition of slaves in exchange of firearms, tobacco, and even bullets. As a matter of fact, it was the black slave raiders who invaded different regions on behalf of the European buyers and sold the Igbo people to the slave market. And as fate would have it, Jaja became a victim of slave trade. When he was 12 years old, Jaja was captured by slave raiders and sold by a slave merchant known as Obua Ajuku of Oguta to Chief Igani Puguma Allison in Bonny Island. Now, Bonny Island is a major coastal oil and gas hub and also a historic traditional state located in the Niger Delta region of the River State in Nigeria, roughly 40 kilometers southwest of Port Harcourt. It was the slave trader by the name of Obua Ajuku, Jaja's first master, who captured and sold him into the Bonny Island slave market, gave him the name of Jubo Juboga, and later on resold him to Chief Alali, the head of the Opobo Manila group of houses, who then placed Jaja in the influential Ana People trading canoe house, where he worked paddling trade canoes that traveled to and from the inland markets on behalf of his European master, the one who changed his name from Jubo Juboga to Jaja, a name that will forever alter his destiny. While working as a canoe paddler, Jaja showed out his exceptional business skills at an early age and became recognized by many, both locals as well as the Europeans, for his hard work, proving his talent for trade while learning both local and European dynamics of commerce and consequently earning his way out of slavery. After the death of his master, Jaja was able to successfully pay off the massive debt of £15,000 that had become a burden to the Ana People house, thereby earning deep respect of his peers. And I must say that £15,000 is no pocket change, especially in the 17th century. So, for Jaja to even afford to pay that amount of money in order to offset the debt accrued by his master means that the guy was well off financially, so much so that he was acculturated according to the Ijo Ibani rituals and later on established himself as the head of the Ana People house in 1863, the very house he was sold to as a slave. Under his leadership, the Ana People House absorbed other trade houses in Bonny Island, while Jaja increased operations in the hinterland by expanding the number of European contacts. However, due to the intense political and trade competitors, especially competition with the rival Manila People House, led by Oko Jumbo, this constant competition created intense conflicts which erupted into a civil war in 1869. As a result, Jaja withdrew his followers from Bonny Island and broke away to find a new defensible strategic location, of which he named as Opobo, effectively cutting off Bonny Island from the interior palm oil markets and ultimately establishing an economic monopoly. From then on, Jaja was enthroned as king of Opobo, taking on the famous title of Jaja of Opobo and becoming Opobo's absolute economic and political leader. In a word, King Jaja of Opobo rose from obscurity as a slave to becoming a formidable merchant king. He achieved this feat of success through his exceptional business skills in trade of palm oil, through leadership of the Ana People House, and also through the founding of the independent state of Opobo in 1869. As a prominent 19th century ruler and a wealthy merchant king in the Niger Delta, Jaja of Opobo had multiple wives in line with the customs of traditional rulers and wealthy trading heads of the region during that pre-colonial era. His notable wives include Fubulu, his first wife, Osunju, his second wife, and Patience, his third wife, the one who accompanied her husband during portions of his exile. King Jaja of Opobo quickly dominated the region's lucrative trade of palm oil by building strong ties with local producers in the interior as well as direct trade links with European farms. And as the trade business of palm oil expanded in Opobo, the Europeans became quite ambitious to dominate the palm oil market, thereby creating a conflict between Jaja and the British business tycoons. However, King Jaja maintained a strict monopoly over the trade of palm oil in the Niger Delta by forcing all foreign merchants, including the British traders, to pay duties and taxes directly to him in his independent city-state of Opobo. He even bypassed European middlemen by shipping the palm oil directly to buyers in Liverpool, England. At the 1884 Berlin Conference, the British moved to claim the city-state of Opobo after other European powers designated the area as a British territory. And when the British claimed the Niger Delta and its protectorate, while aggressively pushing for free trade, this move threatened Jaja's economic control, yet he continued to levy taxes on the British merchants who were operating in his domain. Resultantly, Britain sent its consul by the name of Hewitt in 1884 to the city-state of Opobo with the intention of discussing the protectorate treaty with the king. But the council was met with fierce opposition from the king and his chiefs, especially over a clause that called for free trade and freedom of movement for the British traders. King Jaja's refusal to cease the taxation of the British traders became a big problem for Britain. It therefore again sent his vice-consul by the name of Henry Hamilton Johnston in 1887 to discuss the protectorate treaty and negotiate a win-win situation with the king. This time round, the king agreed to sign the protectorate treaty, but only if the disputed clause of free trade was scrapped off from the treaty. Upon this agreement, the British vice-consul Henry Hamilton Johnston assured the king in writing that the free trade clause was deleted from the treaty and that even the Queen of England did not have any set plan to take his city or even his markets. Satisfied with their rebuttal, the king accepted the vice-consul's invitation aboard his warship as a sign of truce between both parties. But what the king did not know was that he was being tricked by the British vice-consul into entering the warship only to be cornered and arrested by the British authorities. Once the king was cornered and detained by the British forces, the vice-consul Henry Hamilton Johnston then gave Jaja of Opobo two choices, either to allow the Europeans to freely access the markets for the palm oil or to be exiled. But the king refused to back down in effort to protect his palm oil empire. Consequently, King Jaja was arrested and tried in the city of Accra in Ghana, where he was accused of barring trade to the inland districts beyond his jurisdiction. Yet the real reason why the king was arrested and put to trial was because he refused to bend to the whims of the Britons who wanted to dominate and take over the palm oil trade market. After his trial, King Jaja was exiled to the island of St. Vincent, located in the West Indies and Barbados in the Caribbean. His presence in the Caribbean was alleged to have been the cause of civil unrest among the people of Barbados. After 4 years of many people campaigning for his freedom, especially due to his ill health, King Jaja was finally released and granted permission to return to his home in Opobo in July of 1891. But unfortunately for the brave king, he died en route near Tenerife in Spain during his voyage home aboard a British ship in the early hours of the morning on the 8th of July 1891 at the prime age of 70. They said that the good king died under mysterious circumstances while aboard a British ship returning from exile. They also said that the beloved king was poisoned while taking a cup of tea aboard that British ship. Yet the British colonial authorities, who tricked, lured, arrested, tried and exiled the innocent king, claimed that he died of natural causes. But despite of their false claims, the widespread historical beliefs and oral traditions maintain that the great king was indeed poisoned by taking a cup of tea aboard a British ship, majorly because they feared that the king's immense influence would reignite fierce economic and political resistance upon his return to the Niger Delta. The beloved King Jaja of Opobo was buried in the city-state of Opobo, of which he founded. His remains are now at a sacred shrine behind the palace of the Amanyanabo of Opobo. King Jaja of Opobo was succeeded by his third son, known as Prince Frederick Sunday Jaja, who ascended the throne in 1893. The current monarch of the Opobo Kingdom in Rivers State, Nigeria, is the Amanyanabo elect King Charles Douglas McPurple Jaja, who was elected in the late December of 2025 following the passing and funeral rites of the late King Dandeson Douglas Jaja V, who reigned from 2004 to 2025. His Imperial Majesty the King Jaja of Opobo will forever be regarded to as a hero, one who left a mark of great significance in the history of both Nigeria and West Africa.